we're back once again. Get comfy. You good? Don't jab me in the ass now.
Sorry.
He's in a lawn chair, and he scooted it next to my bum.
Sorry.
Welcome to the VidGames podcast. It's been a while since we've had Vic on. Are you ready to talk about some mother effing Tony Hawk?
Some shredding, skating goodness.
Dude, radical man.
Totally tubular, my dude.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I've been on a Tony Hawk kick again these last couple days prior to recording this, and that combined with the recent news we'd gotten, I didn't do like on Destination Mark, I didn't do like a shorts or any kind of like actual video being like, hey, there's some
things going on.
Pro Skater news circulating around the web, which we'll get to towards the end. We'll talk a bit about it just like right now, just to like, you know, for context. So Tony is back making the rounds saying, hey, I'm talking with Activision again, and the only real thing he said was like something on the lines of, I can't speak about the future of Pro Skater, but there is a future. And I'm like, fuck, that's exciting. Also a little concerning, but we'll get to that again towards kind of the end of the episode.
We'll get there.
I mean, for now, we're just going to fucking shoot the shit and talk about our memories of, you know...
We're going to gush about the previous games, about the older games.
Yeah.
The PS2 games.
I mean, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater doesn't need any real introduction. Like, if you... It even got referenced in Astro. Of course, they couldn't mention Tony by name, so all you do is unlock a bot who is considered a pro skater. But it's, for all intents and purposes, supposed to reference Tony Hawk. Which was the coolest shit, because I was not expecting that at all.
I wasn't either. Like, even if it was, like, a planned thing, I wasn't sure how they were going to do it. But
it wasn't even on my radar. I wasn't even thinking about it, which is the weird thing. And it's because of the copyright and because of, like, you know, him being a celebrity and what have you. But, like, be that as it may, for representation in games like Astrobot, if you think PlayStation, you know, platformers, you have Crash and Spyro. Fighting games, you have Tekken. Racing games, you have Gran Turismo. Sports games, you have Tony Hawk. And so... for the longest time, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, I mean, up there with, like, if you're talking like big, not even just PlayStation games, but kind of like some of the best games ever made. Like Tekken 3 is up there to rep, you know, fighting games and what have you, but like also like top 10s, 20s, you know, PlayStation games like lists from either back in the day or even now. Tekken 3 will always be up there. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater like 2 will always be up there. So that's how fucking crazy and impactful Pro Skater is and was. And the funny thing that really, really spurred this is the fact that you can go ahead and tell this story of how you got me a little old DVD.
All right, so
for Tony Hawk.
So prior to this recording, like the day before, I was at the local mall with a friend of mine, and I went to this store that was called the Time Machine.
Yeah.
And the store basically just had a whole bunch of like old school like knickknacks and things like that. But on this particular day, they had like a bunch of Funkos, like just almost all over the place. But they still had like a few things, like they rearranged the interior a bit to include some more stuff. They have a few more shelves like in different places, and on some walls there are things that they put in shelves.
Uh-huh.
So like you roll it out and it has like stuff in there depending on where you're at. Like one of them there's a drawer. There's a drawer where like one of them just has like toys and shit. Another one has like books, like old school like books, like what looks like original books of certain titles and whatnot. And on this particular site I was on, they had a whole little section of movies, and I'm digging through it. And I see the spine of this DVD that says that I just saw Tony Hawk, like I just saw the name, and I was like, oh shit, there's a Tony Hawk DVD, and I wasn't sure if it was one that you had, but I looked at it and I was like, this doesn't look familiar to me. Fuck it, I'll buy it. It was really cheap too, so I was like, this is a good steal.
I appreciate you thinking of your big bro. Because for
Yeah.
context, in terms of that, him saying I don't think he has this one, because I did for like a Christmas or a birthday a couple years back from I think it was mom or someone. I got one of the more well known documentaries on Pro Skater is I think it's called Pretending I'm a Superman.
Mm.
It's specifically about I think some of it I think is Tony getting his start in skateboarding, but the majority of it, if not like the whole
Actually,
thing,
here, hold on. I know you have it.
you're gonna get it.
Well, I'm not gonna get it. I'm just gonna read what it says. 'Cause I think I see it.
Oh, okay. It is.
Yeah, pretending I'm a Superman.
Yeah, it's for all intents and purposes a Pro Skater documentary.
Yeah.
And the thing that you got is it's not in here.
What? So essentially, what I got was essentially a small DVD that was not super long or anything, and it's not really meant to be a documentary of sort per se.
It was more of like a behind the scenes type thing.
It was more so just talking about the games up to Underground 2,
Yeah,
and that was like previews or something like that.
because that DVD was made in 2004, and so around that time, Underground 2 was just about to come out.
Mhm.
So on the DVD is this little behind the scenes Pro Skater, like the legacy that it's been leaving behind and stuff. Because people are going to say arguably peak is Underground to Pro Skater 1 to like Underground 2, and a lot of people do include American Wasteland in there as well, but I know I do for sure. That's like peak Tony Hawk right there. Like those like 6-7 games like are the ones you want to play, and so until 1+2 of course, but back in the day that was peak, and so it was this like little legacy-ish like behind the scenes look at like how it kind of started and what it was and everything, and then from that.
Because even on the cover it says for promotional use only.
It says for promotional use. I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like that's actually really cool that you found that.
Yeah,
and
I'm surprised they even had something like that there. I wasn't.
Somebody sold it. Somebody had it and sold it.
Yeah,
It could have been an employee from another store from years ago, and they just had it and then sold it, and then it just made its way. I love when shit like that happens, when weird knickknacks from like stuff like that for promotional shit or other things just get handed off from like an employee of a place to like a bunch of other people around. They'll sell it at like flea markets or their own like garage sales or whatever. That shit's so cool because it's not so much that they don't realize what it is and just don't give a shit. It's just more like, well, they don't have any use for it anymore. And so what if an actual fan or something comes along and sees it, they'll be like, oh fuck. And I can't speak to any flea market things or anything like that from personal experience, but I have asked several GameStop employees for some of their Crash promo stuff. So like I've got on my wall a GameStop specific promo poster for Nitro Field and Insane. I have a couple little promo standees for Insane and for Nitro Field as well. Didn't get anything for Spyro, unfortunately, or Crash 4. COVID happened, so I couldn't get anything for that. But in any case, with Tony Hawk, so that was cool. It was a promo like video, like DVD, because it had for some bizarre reason it had this comp as a bonus feature of like all the Neversoft, not the Tony Hawk Pro Skater intros with like the skaters and the music and everything, but like the Neversoft company intros. For some reason, I love them, and that is another big part. If you know Tony Hawk, in general, like the Pro Skater in general, you'll know the very creative Neversoft like company logo little intros at the beginning of the games. Those are like hilarious to watch in and of themselves. But yeah, it was very much this weird promo DVD, but it was super cool. So I saw everything that it has to offer. It has like weird special videos that were made for like Pro Skater 1 and 2 and shit. So it's cool stuff. But yeah, no, Tony Hawk has like a franchise though. The funny thing about that DVD actually they said there is that they Neversoft and even I think Sony were not really expecting it to blow up outside of the sports fan market and the skaters, because that was of course what at its core Tony Hawk was meant to kind of hit towards, like, oh, the skaters have a game they can play and can relate to, because not only are the tricks as accurate as can possibly be, but like there's a bunch of pro skaters that they're going to recognize and stuff like that, and even some like more like they're pros but they didn't have that much
notoriety as like
not notoriety, that's not the correct term, I just actually learned recently. But yes, I'm forgetting the fucking word at the moment, but yes, that kind of like, I wouldn't say credibility, but they weren't as well known. Even though they were pro, they weren't as well known as fucking like obviously Tony Hawk or somebody. And so Pro Skater helped to actually get them seen, which was cool.
Spotlight.
Yeah, like more than they kind of already were building up to be, but like it really shot them up there because they were fun to play as and stuff like that. And to the point where when like Pro Skater 2 and all that came out, like now the skaters were clamoring to be like, hey, asking Tony like, can I be in the next one or whatever. Because it's so fun, and I was explaining to you before we recorded, like, the what makes Tony Hawk Pro Skater fun is, like, it feels almost like a platformer, but you're on a skateboard, because you can still, jump and go from gap to gap, so it's almost like platforming from one thing to another, and then, you're stringing combos together and stuff, and, I mean, we can't deny the fucking, like, influence Tony Hawk had on other games, because even Spyro, of all things, bringing it back, got inspired, and that's why Spyro even has skating segments in Year of the Dragon, directly inspired by Tony Hawk, because you can do tricks, you get points, you have to go 1v1 with Hunter to see who can score that. That's a mission. You have to get an egg that way. There's several, if anything. I think there's one or two you get like that, but So, and those skate parks in Spyro and all that, I mean, they're fun because it harkens back to Tony Hawk. But that's what the games are fun. Like they felt very fluid. The first one is a little sketch because it's the first one. So of course most first games, especially back in the 90s, like didn't always feel the best. I mean, for platformers, you can make a case like Crash and Spyro felt pretty good for their first games. Like I'm gonna always argue Crash 1 still feels very good to play. Actually just played it again not too long ago. So, but I'm also very used to it. It's the first game I ever played. But for Tony Hawk, the first game, it is fun. It is a little slower. We fucking played it for the channel. Do you remember when we did that? We do have a one-off on Tony Hawk.
Oh no, yeah, no, I remember.
It was a long time.
I remember I struggled a lot because it was the first game, and I'm not good at those games. Like I never learned to do tricks and all this stuff, and I never really played it as often. So like I never really got the hang of how they flow, or at least especially the first one. But,
I mean, because to be fair too, I don't know if we ever made this public or known, but like there is a 5-year gap between Vic and me. So like I'm older than you by 5 years. So when we were little, you were still much younger than me, but we would still play together. So playing like Underground 1 or like Pro Skater 3.
I have more fond memories of the later Pro Skaters and the Underground games and American Wasteland. But going back to the originals, like the first 1 and 2, I don't remember much from 2, honestly. Now that I think about it,
that sucks because I remember. I don't remember. It's not gonna be a play-by-play where we talk about every single like fucking level or skate park in every game because I can only remember so much. Like, you have the hangar and every single first level in these first 4 Pro Skater games are like fucking iconic. Like you have the warehouse, which is like the coolest shit. They even recreated it as a bit of a promo thing, and Tony skated it to promote 1+2, which was the coolest shit. They brought the warehouse back for the tutorial stage in Underground 2. So there's stuff like that. The hangar is like the coolest fucking place for Pro Skater 2 because it feels like a bit more of an evolution. Plus doing the secrets, like grinding along the little like blade, where this like little garage bit is, and it blasts the door open so you can go and skate in there, and then where the copter is you can like skate the blades, and it actually activates it, and it blasts through the roof.
Yeah, I do.
And it busts down a secret area it's so fucking cool. And then you got the Foundry in Pro Skater 3, which is also super cool and has its own vibe and everything. And then 4, I forget what 4 was called. Because it's been a while since I've played Pro Skater 4. I forget the first. I know the first area, I can see it in my head, but I forget what it's called. So it's my bad for forgetting that. But they are still super iconic. Plus, Pro Skater 4 gave us Ollie the Magic Bum, so he's hilarious. But Pro Skater was a lot of fucking fun. I remember too having the PC version of Pro Skater 2. Which was weird to play back in the day. It was still fun because I recognized it. You know, I still. Oh my God! Wait, if I can, I gotta see if it's. I gotta check it first. So this may or may not be up on the screen around now. Um, but the image we posted this image while playing Astro's Playroom on the channel. I want to say it's the one of you as a baby and me as a small kid and mom's holding us and the PlayStation's right there. I'm not sure if it's just the PlayStation or if there was a game next to it. If there was, I believe it was Pro Skater 2. I think it's in that picture. If it is, the picture's up right now for you to see. But if it's not, then I'm not gonna throw it up. But yeah, no, dude, that's the proof that we go way back with Pro Skater. And the funny thing about that is that I don't have any vivid memories as I do with like Crash games or Spyro games or Tekken games. I don't have very vivid memories of when we would get a new Pro Skater. They would just show up. I think because mom or like grandpa or somebody fucking probably heard about them and then knew I already liked the games as before you came along and would just keep getting them. So, and it's one of those franchises for me where, because I want to say I've told the story, maybe not in a podcast episode before, but it is out there that, for PS2 and stuff, I didn't grow up with games like, for platformers like Ratchet or, Jack or Sly, because which I didn't, of course, you know, even if I knew of those games at the time, I had no idea to know that they were going to become such like beloved franchises in their own right, you know. A lot of the stuff that I rolled with in going from like PS1, generational wise, PS1 into PS2 into PS3 were games that, and franchises that just happened to keep moving over. So like, you know, Crash and Spyro moved, even if they weren't made by Naughty Dog or Insomniac, I was still playing Wrath of Cortex, Twin Sanity, Nitro Kart, Enter the Dragonfly, Hero's Tale, stuff like that. Tekken, of course, is still Namco, obviously, so I kept going with 4, 5, and, you know, Tag and all that. So yeah, Tony Hawk, same thing. I often forget that there's a PS1 version of Pro Skater 4. I keep forgetting about that because, and that's the thing where the game was made for PS2, but there was a last gen version. That doesn't happen too often nowadays because, again, consoles, we talked about this, I think, in our consoles episode. Consoles nowadays, at least in terms of like Xbox and Sony, and PlayStation, they tend to be very, very close to each other in the sense that, like, you know, whether there's backwards compatibility or whatever the case may be. So, like, making a game now for, like, both PS4 and 5, it's super duper common and it's not anything weird nowadays. But to make a PS2 game back in, like, 2001 or whatever, or 2 even, but then to make a PS1 version as well was, not to say unheard of, even for its time, but, like, it wasn't as common. So I got the PS2 version of Pro Skater 4, and I've played both the PS1 and PS2 versions of Pro Skater 3. Pro Skater 3 PS2 version feels like the PS1 version, but it's got, you know, the PS2 glow up, so the frame rate's better. It doesn't look as polygonal and as like PS1-ish, you know. But it's the same game. But that's pretty much like the Pro Skater like series of games right there, at least for now, right? I'm trying to think of other shit. Like, it got so big that I told you about this, that briefly Activision had its own little like sports side branch, and it was called Activision O2. So like Pro Skater had 2 or 3 or whatever, maybe even 4. Activision's like normal company intro wouldn't be there; it would be this O2 branch. And then there was also like they tried doing other pro type series. There was Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX, and then there was Kelly Slater's Pro Surfer, which didn't do as good as Tony Hawk.
Yeah, well, I've been curious about those other pro whatever games.
Never played them.
Because yeah, we never bothered to get them or anything. But I am curious of what they're like, if they're anything similar to the Pro Skater series or something.
I don't even know, like, because of how it looks, because, like, you see the cover of the games, and they have the exact same feel as, like, a Tony Hawk Pro Skater old school, like, you know, cover.
I mean, even the logo, too.
The logos look the exact. So that's where I'm like, did Neversoft do those, too? Because I don't remember those. Or was it somebody else that just happened to, like, copy that style within, you know, whatever, and Activision had them do those other pro games. I genuinely don't know. There was also this one like Disney skate game that Neversoft made, and they just took the bare bone. They cut a lot of shit out that was put in to make it more simpler. It was very very much a kids game. Obviously, it's Disney, but it was. It's so fucking weird to see. It looks like a mod. The whole thing looks like a mod for like Pro Skater, because you can play as like a kid Tarzan, like from I want to say that was what, Tarzan 2 or something. I've never seen that one. Woody, there's Toy Story rep in there. There's a bunch of other shit, but they look okay. You see how Shrek is in Underground 2, and how weird it looks. That's what this Disney skate game looks like. It's just that. But all the skate parks and levels are themed after Disney properties and stuff, and they got the characters from those Disney movies. But it's the same exact physics, and it's the same exact engine. So again, they just gutted most of the Tony Hawk shit out of Pro Skater 4 and injected Disney into it. That's what they did, and it's a real game that's out for PS2 and all that.
That's funny.
Like the fucking like. Because you can still see the tricks that you do and stuff, and it's the same font and same colors and same everything. The timer is the exact same. I'm pretty sure they probably reused some sound effects. I haven't actually seen raw gameplay of it, but I've seen like some stuff here and there. So that's fucking hilarious.
Now I gotta see it.
In terms of like influence, that's about kind of where the biggest form of influence it really did, because a lot of people say this in the interviews, Neversoft, Sony people, the pro skaters themselves, but it's super super true that like the Pro Skater games really did influence kids and teens and preteens to try to learn how to skate and to learn how to skate. So skateboarding was seen the way you've seen it, because so we were just watching. I had a crash course, Vic, before we started this on like the story modes of like Underground 1, 2, and American Wasteland. And so the way you see it kind of portrayed is just kind of how it has always been seen, is that like, oh, it's just skateboarding is always, it's a sport and it's a hobby, but a lot of people only see it as that. A lot of adults only see it as that. And so like, and if you watch like raw skate videos from kids and teens and young adults trying to make it big, they really will go out. They will find spots. They will try and do tricks off those spots, claim that spot as their own. They did this at that spot on this day at this time. That's why you film them. That's why you document everything, and that's how you get seen. And if you ever, one of the more modern things I've seen nowadays is a YouTube channel called The Barracks, which Tony and a lot of those pros are super involved with to this day. And so you can see like modern current day like happening now, like skate competitions, stuff between rising pros that have been there for like the last couple years, old school pros like Tony, Chad, Rodney Mullen, Eric Hostin, they're all still there. And that's kind of how it is now. Back then it was seen as much more of like a don't do that here. You know how like they always portray the cops or other people that are security guards being like, you got to get out of here, and they're just trying to make it big because they see something that how do I describe it, like they see an opportunity for these just locations. It's almost like real estate. Skating is almost like real estate where it's all about location. Like if you can find this big spot and trick off that spot and you film that shit, like it is very impressive. And with what skaters were learning to do around that time, they're just trying to one up themselves or each other, trying to figure out what can be done where. And that's kind of what skating has always been. So when we come to Underground, the first one especially, it kind of chronicles that tale in a very, very fictional way, of course, and a very silly way, but still a really very like entertaining way of like, because it's the first one where you get to walk on and off you get on and off your board, which was like the coolest fucking innovation in the franchise. You're still doing missions and everything, because Pro Skaters 1 through 3 were more based off of doing little missions and stuff. It very much felt like a video game in the sense that even though you're doing these cool tricks and a lot of them they're all mocapped and again as accurately like these tricks are done as accurately as possible to get them represented as accurately as possible in the games, and named correctly and what have you. Not only are there pro skaters that are real skaters in those games, but like the video game-ness is, of course, like you start on the first level, you do these missions, collect the skate ladders, find the secret tape, do some kind of specific grind on a specific rail, or jump a specific gap, get a bunch of points. It's like the high score, what was it, the high score? The sixth score was the very last one. I'm forgetting the middle one. It was the highest score, like the one before that or above that, and then it was like the sixth score. So it was doing all these different little tasks, little missions, like break these boxes or do whatever, find 5 this or whatever, and then go to the next level. And that was 1 through 3. I mean, 4 as well, but 4 started giving you like goals or missions to do. So you talk to an NPC and they're like, "Hey man, come and do this thing," and I bet you can't do it, and then you have to do it, and then that's how that works. Underground is very... I mean, most of the Tony Hawk games are very mission-based, but Underground is where it started to feel like a real story mode. And it was a little less about the pros. I mean, the pros are all still scattered throughout the story, but it... And the way and it comes back to that video you bought me, because I watched it, and they said when they got to Underground that was the biggest point, is that Pro Skaters 1 through 4 are about the skaters and the pros and the guys that you already know, but Underground is about you. So not only do you get to customize your own character, not only, oh my god, can you use the fucking iToy, or is it the iToy, or is it you do this weird thing where you can take a picture of yourself with like your fucking phone, or it's the iToy, and you can scan your face basically and slap it on top of the character, the custom character's face, so you can quite literally skate as yourself.
I didn't know about that.
It was, for the time, sort of revolutionary tech, but it did look a bit scuffed. I mean, not that it's gotten that much better these days, because I'm thinking of like that one NBA game that was very, very fucking awful with it, like some 3, 4, 5 odd years back. But it was pretty cool for its time. Plus, Pro Skater 4 and Underground, I don't know about 2, maybe 2, but it must be the Underground games. Pro Skater 4 was the first one that I can recall where, if you remember the PS2 LAN adapter, online gaming got popular with PS3 and Xbox 360, but it arguably started in its very, very infantile stages with PS2 and maybe original Xbox. I have to say it's original Xbox.
I'd also argue GameCube, but
GameCube, it had
wasn't that more local and not so much online?
It was not online. There were, for the GameCube, there were plans for that, but the tech wasn't fully implemented.
Because some games have like a LAN mode where like it's like
that was more between, but that was more between GameCube and Game Boy rather than online with other GameCube users.
Oh, I thought that was the whole point of the LAN cable.
What, was there one for GameCube?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That like the LAN cable for the GameCube was for like.
Oh, no! I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
Because games like Mario Kart Double Dash.
I think it was more local though.
It
was to connect two GameCubes together. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I forgot about that. No, but.
No, yeah,
Xbox and PS2, they had LAN adapters, and it was to be able to actually connect online via your fucking AOL or whatever. So, like, it was like actual online gaming, and it was the very, very infant stages of what we have now. But Tony Hawk 4 was the one I definitely remember having that first, and I think Underground 1 and probably 2 had it as well. But yeah, no, having like Underground did a fucking lot for the series in terms of what it introduced and everything, because like slowly you could see the kind of evolution of like, oh, Pro Skater 1, you can't revert, you can't manual. There were only so many tricks that they actually had in the game for you to do, and sure, you could still do some crazy shit in that game if you are really familiar with the controls and you're a master of the controls and the tricks and the timing for stuff and what you can do before you hit the ground or hit a rail or hit a some kind of corner where you could grind on or whatever the case may be, using wall riding to then go into some kind of a combo. reverts and all that. Reverting came into like I think three. I think three introduced it, and spine transferring didn't even fucking come in until like I think four or something. I can't even remember.
Question: what are those two?
So reverting is when you're doing tricks and shit up in the air, and you come and you right when you hit the ground, you hit like L2 or some shit, and you do like a little like rotation of your board once it hits the ground.
Mm.
And it's just this type of move in games because I was influenced to, you know, as I was saying before, like we skated, not at all trying to really learn the tricks. I don't even really know how to ollie to this day, but riding around was always the fun part. So I'm not gonna talk too much like I know exactly what it is from experience, but just from what I've learned off Tony Hawk, everything I know about skateboarding I know from Tony Hawk. So from Pro Skater. So that in game is how reverting works. I can't speak to how it's done in real life. A lot of the tricks, you know, there are special tricks and other shit that are just so impossibly like, how could you do this in real life? Although there is like one very prominent YouTube channel where this dude does try to his best to nail those tricks in real life. So that's crazy. But that's reverting. Spine transfer is when you have like a very thin like how do I describe it? Well, you can do it ramp to ramp. If it's ramp to ramp like this, I know you guys can't see it, but I'm doing like a little roof type with my hands, like a roof.
Is it like when you launch off one side to transfer to the other side?
You launch off one and you press a button. It's a prompt that's like again like L1 or some shit, and then you go into the next one. And that's the spine transfer. There's also like acid dropping, which is going from like one like ledge into a dip, which you have to press a button for. So that kind of stuff didn't really get introduced until like the later Pro Skater games. But taking all of that shit, those baby steps into underground, you can do all that shit and then get off your board and you can like run around, jump and do shit. And getting on and off your board can contribute to fucking combos. So it opened up the doors for like crazier shit you could do, basically. And if you watch speedrunners, fuck, dude. My lord, they're insane. Not even just that. I remember staring at the fucking like Underground 2, like there wasn't necessarily a demo mode, but they would show you like these pre-done like little videos of in-game shit of like the developers probably just going ham with what you could do in the game. My fucking god, they're crazy. Shit is insane what you could do.
Well, I think I know what you're talking about.
When you stream stuff together. But that was the joy of it. It was stringing together combos and just the wacky, weird shit you could do in those games. Because not only the series had to be, for what it's worth, like grounded in some sort of reality before it could go off and do some fucked shit, right? So having like that street level, quite literally, no pun intended, like making sure that the tricks look the way, you know, and having Tony in them, you know, do the mocap for it. They had to mocap the board as well and stuff like that, so the flips are actually accurate. And they're not always all accurate, but you know they try to do it as best they can, and stuff like that, because it did teach kids what a heel flip was, what, you know, whatever else was, and so that. I'm glad for that. I'm glad that, you know, Pro Skater exists in those 4 games the way they do, because not only were they fun, but like it just taught you how those games kind of played. And then with that knowledge coming into, you know, Underground and American Wasteland, the crazy shit you can do. And again, like Underground 1 being more still kind of grounded in that, oh, it's you, it's a custom character, and it's your asshole best friend Eric, and you fucking go, and it's essentially, you know, being inspired by Chad Muska, who was my favorite skater to play as in the Pro Skater games, because he just looked cool. He exuberated cool for me. Just having the fucking like baggy like tank top like jersey with like the hat and the glasses and his like sandy like hair, like he looked so cool to me as a kid. It's like backpack or whatever. You know, seeing a pro in action in game, you know, in the story mode of Underground 1, and then going from like this, you know, your custom character who's like an amateur, just skating around, you know, Jersey, this little shithole, and then making it big by getting sponsored and making videos, demoing yourself, rolling with, you know, some kind of a brand, and going into like the Tampa Am, and going, you know, to these competitions, and then just getting bigger from there. But then of course your custom character still stays true to themselves, while Eric lets all the fame and everything, you know, get to him, and he's just kind of a dick in general. So it was a very cool, fun story. Underground 2 goes, Ayo, what if Jackass though? And then it becomes this like
y'all motherfuckers like Jackass. We can do that too.
Underground 2 is unhinged, but I love it so fucking much, dude. I love that game so much. It's so fucking insane. Yeah, I described it in a very weird way because I didn't think about it until today, where I'm like, you know what? Underground 2 is like the tack and the Great Juju Challenge of the Tony Hawk series, because it's just a big competition type game. And I actually like those types of games because I never finished Tag Great Juju Challenge, but it being so different, it's like technically TAC 3, but TAC 1 and 2 are like straight platformers with a story going through like all these, you know, worlds and shit, or these different lands. But fucking Juju Challenge is just a competition game in universe. They're in, you know, part of a competition, and so it focuses on like co-op and all this other stuff. So Underground 2 is you're on Team Tony and you have to take down Team Bam, and then you guys are just going around the World Destruction Tour and like wrecking shit and summoning demons or whatever the fuck, I don't know, like shit's nuts. It gets crazy. And then of course it's not just the Jackass influence, but you have like, you know, you see Bam's father Phil, you see fucking Steve-O you can play as running a mechanical bull, you can play as fucking Wee Man, and then they just get weird. You can play as Benjamin fucking Franklin. Yeah.
What?
He's a secret unlockable character.
The fuck?
You can play as Jesse James. You can play as fucking Shrek. You can play as there's this weird brand, and I keep forgetting what they're called. I think they're called Space Monkeys. It's this weird brand that I forget who the fuck owns it or whatever, and it's this real thing, but they have it represented in Underground 2, and there's these little guys, and they're these tiny little fucking like weird, it looks like some kind of like Skrillex Deadmau5 shit. They're little mascot guys, and they look weird and have little weird faces and these big like Mickey Mouse ears, and there's different colors of them. You can play as them. You unlock them. And they're so fucking... One of them, I forget, I don't think it's an Underground game. It might be like Pro Skater like 4 or something. Or hell, maybe it is Underground 2. You can play as this giant severed hand, like a tech deck type deal. That is a playable character.
That's funny.
Shit's insane. I found out, I've remembered recently, Doom Slayer is in Pro Skater 3. One of the memories I'll always have of
he's ripping and tearing up the skate park.
Jesus. One of the memories I will have, so back before one of my childhood friends lived next door to us, if you're like walking on our front door, it would be to the right of us. Before that friend lived there, there was this other family that lived there in that house, and the funny thing is that I think they were a Black or Puerto Rican family or something, I can't remember, but it was a mom and her two sons. And I became friends with them. We weren't like super duper close, but you know, they were cool. And the funny thing is that mom and, you know, grandma shared the same name. That was really funny. And so they were good friends and everything, and I was friends with the kids, and they're a little bit older than me, maybe 2 or 3 years older than me or whatever. But they had Pro Skater 2, and they had a bunch of shit unlocked and everything, and that's how I found out you could play as fucking Spider-Man in Pro Skater 2. And that was because of the whole Neversoft thing, where Neversoft made those like first 2 Spider-Man PS1 games that are like very highly regarded. So some cross promo there, and it was like fucking cool as shit. Again, I'm telling you guys, I've said it multiple times. We've talked about it in Smash Brothers, we've talked about it in Tekken. Unlockable characters from childhood games were the shit.
They were really fun.
And I fucking wish we could bring that shit back. I miss secret unlockable characters. Secret ways to find out, like, different ways for one character to be unlocked. And they're all secret, and you have to figure it out, and you tell your friend, and then you do it. Like, that shit is so fucking cool to me.
Yeah, that's to repeat it. That's what made unlocking characters in games fun. And like,
or hearing the rumors, how we were talking about with Smash, or again this, like just going over to someone's house and saying, "Who the fuck he's in the game?" because they unlocked them.
Yeah, exactly. and so it's like it's that's why it's so saddening that nowadays everything's just kind of handed to you,
Or you have to like buy a DLC,
or it's very watered down to where it's like
yeah,
where it's like here this character's locked. Do this simple
for what it's
do
worth.
this simple thing, and there you go. And it's like it's not fun anymore. At that point, you might as well just have them already there, just in the roster already.
Yeah, fighting games do that nowadays for the most part. If you unlock them, it's more like DLC stuff or
yes, yeah, it's
$5, please.
And now it's mostly just DLC characters.
For what it's worth, though, Tony Hawk 1+2 doesn't do that. You do still unlock some characters in some secret ways. So, granted, and it's Vicarious Vision, so of course they're going to try and keep that intact. Vicarious Visions really did care about like keeping that old school element of what made those games fun. They did with Insane and what have you. So, yeah, granted, it didn't really go away with Tony Hawk, thankfully. So we can only hope that it stays that way. Again, alluding to what we're going to talk about near the end. But so yeah, Underground. If you asked me as a fan, like, what would you want to see in a new like Tony Hawk game, like hypothetically or whatever, I would definitely say we've already seen what can happen, or what both the good and the very bad for when somebody brings back the old school style of play. We saw it with Pro Skater 5. We saw it with 1+2. I think now that people kind of you're gonna probably have to remind people of 1+2 for like new kids today who want to get into the franchise. Like put that shit on sale or re-release it for modern platforms maybe, because I'm not sure if you can actually get a PS5 version of Pro Skater 1+2. I can't remember, but so that way what I would like to see personally is you can then reintroduce like a story mode with a custom character or whatever, or just with progression like that, and getting off your board on and off your board again and stuff like that, and just going all out and being crazy with it, because that's what made those Pro Skater games, but they're still Neversoft, those middle era, if you will, games like very fun.
You see, that's what I mostly have. I have a few more memories of, because I remember we always did the fun multiplayer.
I was gonna mention,
being able to make your own skate park with doing a bunch of crazy shit and like making your own other like custom characters and whatever else. It was like all that stuff was that's what I really liked about those games.
The best memories I had with you were definitely doing the multiplayer modes, because there's horse, there's graffiti, I think there was even a tag at one point. You just literally touch each other, like you run into them and they go boom, and it's like, you're it, see ya.
Yeah, I think we did that one more often, because I remember we played that one a lot, because it was just really funny to just run into each other and just be like, see ya.
Yeah. In Pro Skater 4 there was that fireball mode where you do like a kickflip or a heel flip and you could just launch a fireball.
You just shoot
It's so great. What was it? I just had something in my head. What was it? Fuck. Well, I'll come back to it if I can remember. Oh, no, yeah, it was Horse. So with Horse, it was actually really funny because Horse is the default name you can use, or word.
Oh, right.
You could type in whatever you wanted.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And again,
you could just make a word, and that's what...
With no censoring. I don't know why Neversoft was... I mean, I guess because Spider-Man was a little bit more kid-friendly, because there's the infamous Neversoft Spider-Man, like, little Easter egg or whatever, where, like, if you try to type... You have to put in a name for your profile, so if you put any cuss words... Spider-Man will come up to the screen and punch, like, a little bit of fourth wall breaking, humor. He'll punch the word into something that sounds more friendly. So weird that they did that for Spider-Man, but then, like, with Tony Hawk, there was no censoring of anything that you input. So for Horse, you could put, like, cunt or, like, bitch or something. I'm sure we did some of those before without mom knowing or something when we were kids.
We probably have. I think so. I think we ever did it like a bit or something like that.
So fucking funny.
It was so fun though.
But yeah, no fucking.
I remember one of the things. Was it for Underground or Wasteland, where one of the stages or whatever was a Kiss concert?
That was Underground 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember that.
That's how I got introduced to Kiss. I mean, I can't remember all the music from like all these all these licensed tracks and bands and groups and what have you from all the Tony Hawk games, but like some of them are just ingrained in my fucking mind. Like AC/DC, like Watch Me Explode. That is the prompt you have to put in Pro Skater 4. It's a cheat code that unlocks everything. Do you remember those types of cheat codes? It was like, because there's like big head mode, infinite this, infinite health, infinite that. And then sometimes in some games there's just one that's unlock everything. And so it was always, everything was lowercase. It was watch _ me _ letter X and then plode. So watch me explode. And that unlocked everything in the game. All characters, all everything. There were cheats, like effects you could put on Pro Skater 4. So one of the things I remember doing as a kid was I would, because it felt like you were busting in the game, but still not in like an actual glitchy way. It was just more of like it's a cheat thing. So go ham and have fun.
Yeah, it's just a thing that you're having fun with. It's just a fun little effect that you're just fucking
funny enough, that helped me actually learn how to do certain things because I remember always having a hard time keeping balance with doing manuals, doing lip tricks, grinding. Those require a balance meter pops up, and you have to try and keep that shit stable to elongate your combo and do whatever. Plus, adding onto tricks, doing like double square, double circle, double triangle will like get you different little variants, and you can flip between them as long as you can keep the meter going. You can flip between those and keep doing different tricks and keep the combos going. But then learning Pro Skater 4 had perfect manual, perfect grind, perfect lip tricking. The balance meter doesn't actually teeter; it just stays, so you have perfect balance. So that was really cool to have because
I remember doing that cheat as well.
Not only did it allow me to learn how to do big combos and then just keep going, but then even after taking that stuff off and then really trying to learn how to having the timing down for having elongated periods, like abnormally long periods of time of grinding, staying in a manual. Then when I finally learned how to more accurately balance that meter out, I could just keep it going. So I don't really have to lean on those cheats anymore. But as a kid, they helped. But then beyond that, then you could just fuck with shit. And then there was a moon jump. And if you're Jango Fett, specifically another guest character, you do a specific special hit. Because those characters would have their own special moves. And Jango Fett's was to launch into the air with his jetpack. And so, well, at least one of them. There's two of them. Did you hear that little squeak? That was my voice. Did you hear that?
Was it? I thought that was the cat.
Oh. No, that was a weird squeak my voice did. I was considering.
Scary. That sounded like a cat.
I was going to consider cutting that out, but then I guess we're acknowledging it. Anyway.
Sorry, that just caught me off guard. Anyways, continue. So Jango Fett's special move.
Yeah, so multiple characters would have. Well, they would have multiple specials, not just one. So Jango Fett's one of them was to launch in the air. And so with the moon jump, combined with Jango Fett doing that, so you could just keep going up in the air. You could see the entire map down below, and then there were some fun weird ones like a disco mode. So whenever you did tricks, the more you did, parts of the geometry of the levels would start kind of glowing different colors.
Oh, I remember that.
But the more you did in your combos and you landed big scores, the colors would intensify. So you could fucking imagine, and not even just if you land combos or land tricks, as if you just do enough in one combo, the colors would intensify. So my favorite thing to do, specifically on, I don't know why, the carnival level in Pro Skater 4, was to have the cheats on, use Jango Fett, use the moon jumping and the disco mode, and just go ham, just going up and up and up and up. And then with each trick and keeping the combo going, the lights would intensify down below the colors, and you would see this garble of weird intense colors.
Yeah, I remember that. Completely
engulfing the level as you're way the fuck up here in the stratosphere. And then landing it because you make sure that you land in a good spot and actually land, and then you get 5 million points. It's fun as hell. A lot of good stuff in the Pro Skater games, and again the underground games too. Just having more to do and more weird characters to play as and stuff, and shit, I think it was underground again too, where almost any NPC you can ever come across in the main story, somewhere along the line can be unlocked. And like there were times where like in certain Pro Skater games you'd find out, oh, there are way more playable characters than I thought, because sometimes they would like reskin certain dudes or whatever. So there'd be skaters like I had never even fucking heard of beyond like the ones they always promoted that were like the main quote unquote characters of those games. There would be like a whole, again, there were cheats. You had to find Cheat Planet. I've mentioned that before on the podcast and stuff like that. You had to go and find different fucking like, there'd be codes to like unlock like a slew of other characters that were just baked deep in there, but you couldn't find them through like normal means. Shit was insane. But yeah, the music and stuff too. There was Kiss, Underground 1. That was a secret stage you could unlock, and you had to like hit the Kiss letters, and they would light up, and then Kiss themselves would come up on stage and start performing Rock and Roll All Night. Shit was awesome.
I remember that. Oh my god.
Underground 2 has like one of the best soundtracks I can remember off the top of my head, because you had like you had Ring of Fire from Johnny Cash, you had That's Life from Frank Sinatra, you had like all kinds of different I think fucking was it Underground 2, or was it, am I thinking of American Wasteland? Jimmy Eat World was on there as well. So even rock, because some rock, but like hip hop was some of the main, those were like the two main, like those made up the soundtracks for the most part, those genres. Later, like Pro Skater 5 has like dubstep and stuff, which is cool, but you know, the roots were buried deep in like, you know, rock, you know, punk or metal, and then fucking hip hop and rap. And American Wasteland again was cool because it like actually had like this more interconnected world. So it was just one big ass area, but as you progress through the story, you would like unlock more places to go and stuff. And like I described it, it's like they were coming off the high of Underground 2, because there's still plenty of destruction in that game. But there is more of an actual controlled story with like all these just characters. They're not like real people necessarily. Some of them are still, of course, but not every single person is. If I find out that Useless Dave is a real fucking person, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? But but yeah, arguably, I guess you could say, and a lot of people would say, that American Wasteland was quote unquote the last good Tony Hawk game, because Neversoft, I don't know really what happened. If anything, Matt McMuscles should make a what happened. He did one on Pro Skater 5, but it would be really, really cool and interesting to see one on Project 8 and Proving Ground. And you're gonna see here, you're gonna realize those two games we're not gonna talk about too much here, because we never played them.
Yeah, we don't own them. We never.
It's not that I wasn't interested. For some unfathomable reason, I don't know why. Like we didn't get them as presents when we were kids or whatever. I remember seeing, like, I remember specifically, I have specific memories, multiple ones. Every time we would go and visit Hollywood Video to rent shit, I would go to the game section, I would see Project 8. I don't know whatever compelled me to just be like, not even like, no, I don't want to play this. It's just, I never asked to rent it or asked to buy it later. Like, I don't know why.
Let's see, because I don't remember seeing that game there. The most I remember seeing just on the shelves but never being interested in getting was Ride and Shred.
But we're gonna get there in a
even
minute.
the controller, seeing it as well.
Jesus.
But, like, I don't remember seeing Project 8. I don't remember seeing Proving Ground either. Honestly,
I do remember seeing Proving Ground there.
Maybe I have. I just don't fully remember. I don't know. There's something about them just didn't look interesting.
So I think too, maybe Neversoft was just getting like creative burnout, because they were doing all these. Because at some point, Activision, you know, they do what they gotta do, and they're like, all right, well, we're making this yearly now. Like, you gotta make a new Tony Hawk game, and if that doesn't happen, hey, we have this brand new idea called fucking Guitar Hero. And so for a while, Neversoft did make some of the Guitar Hero games. So it must be a combination of all that crap, where Project 8 and Proving Ground were just not doing it, and it led to low sales, which was a fucking first for Tony Hawk as a brand, as an IP, as a franchise. So, like, again, peak is those first 6, maybe 7 games. American Wasteland is sort of in the middle, maybe for just because of the fact that it is such a more like condensed story, despite still rolling over some of those mechanics and what have you from and getting off your board and whatever from Underground 2. But it was a little weird. It has this feel about it where like it's still very familiar, still nostalgic, and still fun, but it does feel different from Underground, and Underground, that duology feels different from the Pro Skater 1 through 4. So like each of those had their own feel, but then you come to fucking Project 8 and Proving Ground, and they have a different feel too, but it doesn't feel the same. And I'm not sure if like the physics changed or if there was like a weird story change. I don't really know, because again, I've never played them. And funny enough, Mom did buy me Proving Ground a long time ago, but it was a used copy, and it was a fucked up copy, which we didn't know. So it actually didn't work, so I never got to play Proving Ground. And I've never owned, never rented. For all intents and purposes, I've never touched Project 8. So those are games I'd like to play eventually. I mean, I played the fucking spin-off Downhill Jam.
I say, oh, we got Downhill Jam.
Which I found out way later was made by Toys for Bob, and I was like, what? But, yeah, like, we played that before ever, and we never touched Project 8. So,
we hardly ever played Downhill Jam as well. Like,
no, we did play it. I do have memories of playing it.
I remember playing it once or twice and never touching it ever again. But that's where my memories go for Downhill Jam. All I know is that, like, the art style was a lot more cartoony looking, and it was a racing game, and that was pretty much it.
At that point,
I don't remember anything else of that. I remember jack all from it besides that.
It really, really feels at that point that Activision was probably running out of things to have the devs do for Tony Hawk, because weird that project went to Toys for Bob, and then again Neversoft doing Project 8, Proving Ground. I forget who were the ones that did the DS port of American Wasteland. They called it American Skateland. I remember when that came out. Never played it, but I don't know if the idea well was running dry or what was happening, but like it just kind of petered out. And even after Neversoft got taken off of Tony Hawk and started doing Guitar Hero, the same thing happened to Guitar Hero. Like the Guitar Hero has its own fucking feel and vibe and what have you, and it was awesome. And I played like Guitar Hero 2 and
I say we have
Rocks the 80s and all that shit.
I feel like we have most of the Guitar Heroes.
Yeah, they were fucking awesome. But then even that with Neversoft petered out, and not long after, whichever the last one that they did was for Guitar Hero, Neversoft went defunct, and all the employees and everything merged. There was a merger. Everything merged into, this is the first time we're going to mention merging, everything merged into Infinity Ward to work on like Call of Duty shit, because of course. But there was that happened. Then we got Robomoto. And Robomoto, God fucking bless their souls, they tried. They tried.
They tried their damnedest.
That's At this point, it was Activision just going, okay, what the fuck? What's gonna stick? And even Tony Hawk himself tried to be like, hey, let's do some different innovations and different things. And he must have seen, how good the Wii was doing around that time. And all that, and then he had the idea to make and he had the guy to think too, even probably with like fucking Wii Fit, he probably had to have seen with the balance board, and he was like, board? Okay, we can do something like that. And it was his idea to be like, ayo, let's make because he said that, let's make a skateboard controller, and it's motion censored. And then we got Ride and Shred not long after. And they weren't good. Never played them. Saw them around, like you said. I remember seeing them around.
I remember seeing the
big ass fucking board. I remember seeing them.
I also remember seeing some advertisements and trailers for the games, but it just didn't look interesting to me. Funny enough, like I don't know.
Oh man,
Like for as
I see the vision,
like
right?
yes, for as innovative as it is, like I'm impressed that they were even able to do that, but it doesn't look interesting. I don't know.
It's just not for
I think
again.
it's a good idea in like concept, but to actually for them to have actually made it, it's like I don't know.
Activision had that era, and it didn't really stop until Skylanders, where they were like, okay, peripherals, motherfuckers love peripherals. Here you go. Here's a skateboard for Tony Hawk. Here's his entire set for Guitar Hero. Here are these toys that you have to put into the little pedestal for Skylanders. And they just were cranking shit out from the late 2000s to the mid 2010s. Arguably, like, late 2010s. But, like, you know, an entire, like, decade was insane for Activision and what the fuck they were trying to do. And have their devs do and all that. So we can't speak too much about personal experience because we have none for those motion-controlled skateboard controller-based games. But Robomoto were the ones, for some ungodly reason, that Activision decided to stick with for a couple more projects after that. They did a ground-up remake of Pro Skater called Pro Skater HD. It was Pro Skater with some levels and stuff from 2 in there. And then they had a DLC pack where it was some stuff, like some levels and shit from 3. And that was Pro Skater HD, which really rode the fence because it did feel kind of familiar. Well, rather, it looked familiar, but to a lot of people it didn't feel familiar because it was a different engine. It was the introduction of the weird ragdoll shit when you bailed. It didn't feel right. The colors and the lighting and everything didn't look quite right. So it sounds like Insane Trilogy Reignited levels of, like, complaints. But when you're trying to make something a little more photorealistic and it already had this very specific feel, like, I sort of get it. But if it's the feel specifically, if it's the fluidity, like we talked about, the fluidity of the actual, you know, doing the tricks and keeping those combos and what have you, if that didn't feel right, then that's what matters to me in that sense. Because Tony Hawk was always about feeling good to skate. And that was what the design philosophy was fucking built on for like for Pro Skater. So when
what made it fun.
Yeah, so when Pro Skater HD happens, and it's like, okay, what happens when some other fucking team decides to try and recreate that magic? It is either hit or miss, and for Robomoto, it kept them afloat until Pro Skater 5. Pro Skater 5 is where I can then say, yes, I do remember hearing about it. I remember being hyped for it because it felt like it was going to be a return to form. Calling it 5, I was like, oh shit, they're making a new Pro Skater game. It's been so long since Pro Skater 4.
I remember being excited by seeing some of the new stuff they were implementing.
The slam mechanic did look cool, and I get, again, the vision. I get what they're going for. Another way to quickly get to the ground to do some combos and do whatever. I get it.
To continue off doing some tricks and whatnot. So that way, like,
insanely poor execution. My God. Holy shit. One of the first discussion videos where I'm rambling in front of the camera that I made for Destination Mark was me talking about, in 2015, will Pro Skater 5 be good? Because I already heard all, you know, not everything that I know now, but I remember the hearsay of how those last projects, Ride, Shred, what have you, weren't doing so hot. And the last time I played a game from Tony Hawk was American Wasteland. So I'm like, oh, is this a return to form for the franchise? No, not quite yet.
Again, they tried, but they missed the mark completely.
And whether it was Activision, whether it was time constraints, crunch, I'm sure there was probably some crunch involved. Don't really know. Party factor of all of that shit. But it shows. It really shows. And there's some like weird decisions, like the kind of more cel-shaded look. I mean, it's different, you know, obviously you'll give it that, I guess. But like, the thing too is that, again, I see what they were trying to do, because it's Pro Skater 5. They were like, all right, well, what did Pro Skater 1 through 4 do? It was the concept, the simple concept. They basically stripped everything that we remembered from the bigger games like Underground and American Wasteland, and and Proven Ground and Project 8, arguably, and then scaled it back to feel again like a true return to form of classic Pro Skater. You can't get off your board. You're doing tricks, completing missions, unlocking new levels to go through and progress. But the weird thing about Pro Skater 5 is that it just feels devoid of like a soul. Which is weird because arguably you could not say the same, but like it's with how simplistic Pro Skater 1 was, and even 2 and 3, even though they built upon, because it was all about the secret things you could do, the cool little knickknacks, again, grinding the blades of the copter and watching it fly away and shit like that. They didn't have to do that shit, but it just made it that much more magical. There was no magic in Pro Skater 5. You couldn't do shit like that. The most you could do was ragdoll around, glitch about, and watch your character's head grow big. Because that was a mission. That was actually several missions. Stop your character's head from getting big and exploding by doing combos and keeping your score up. It's like, what? I know you guys are trying to be a little random like the franchise kind of usually is, but like that's too random. That's just weird. Like I don't get it. And while we're on the topic of new shit, thanks for introducing the slam mechanic and then fucking mapping it to the grind button. What was that? You failed. You failed at the thing you were trying to do. This new mechanic that keeps combos going, you could fuck that up real easily and screw up your combo. If you're trying to grind but you don't quite hit the timing right and you slam before you go, you can bail. It's real easy to bail in Pro Skater 5.
Oh, it's
It's
easy.
really fucking
Hey, yo,
easy.
who remembers the day 1 patch?
Oh, no. Do you want to know? Do you want to know what the game content consisted of without that patch? The tutorial and the creative part. Nothing else was available to you. You had to download that patch. If you didn't download that patch ever, you just couldn't play the game.
There was no game.
There was no real game there for you to play.
There was the menu.
Play the menu.
You could be in the menu.
Speedrun the menu a minute.
Speedrun the menu in a second.
My God, like...
Oh my God.
Not only that, but then the online play was very unstable, of course. That is an easy thing to fuck up. A very easy thing for modern games to fuck up is the online connectivity. So that fucked up.
I remember instead of special guest characters, the most you got was costumes. Like there was one of Ratchet. And there's one of a Ninja Turtle. I don't know. I don't remember if it's all of them.
I think it's... Well, I saw Raph. I rewatched Matt Muscle's video. Raph was there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's all of them. It might be.
Yeah. And I think there was like a few other I thought there was like a few other PlayStation characters or something.
Maybe.
But...
Motherfucking Octodad's on there. I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that too. I was like, what? And funny enough, it was right before Crash's resurgence. He was planned for, but Activision was still being really stingy with Crash. Crash didn't get into PS All Stars. He was very much planned. And yeah, Robomoto wanted him for rep in Pro Skater 5. Activision was like,
I could only imagine.
Could you imagine?
I can only imagine the green light for this.
That would have been... This predates Imaginators. That would have been our Crash fans like fucking like, here he is. He's back. In a real shitty Tony Hawk game. Oh, that's an oof right there.
Oh my God.
It's a collar tugger. Yeah, Pro Skater 5. So get this right. Pro Skater 5 is just dead, and they're trying to make sure they scrub that fucking that dish clean because not very long after the game launched, maybe not even like a year or two, the online servers went down, so you can't play online with anyone anymore. That's the quickest. Like if your game's connectivity for online features and shit and modes and playing with friends just ends, not even that long in, it's failed. It doesn't work or it's failed. Digital versions of the game got delisted, so you can't get it digitally. So if you buy this fucking thing in 2024 physically, you're buying like 2 modes, 3 modes. It's the single player shit. I think you can do local co-op still with split screen, and then the create shit. And I skimmed over this too. the create stuff, like I touched on it with like the characters and stuff, but my god, we were talking about this last night. The biggest and coolest thing you could do, and I don't think whether there'll be a resurgence of Tony Hawk or not in the future, which again, gonna get to that by the end. They're probably never gonna implement this again, and they're never gonna top it. But peak creating your own shit in a Tony Hawk game. Underground 1 and 2, I don't remember if American Wasteland had it. 4, Pro Skater 4 I think kind of had this, but Underground 1 and 2, especially Underground 1, I really remember having this feature where you can not only create your own characters, your own parks. I forgot to mention this, you can create your own trick.
All right.
Create your own special.
I forgot about
You can
that.
tack special moves and other moves in and kind of interlock them and then map it to an actual... I don't think you input the buttons yourselves, but you choose a pre-done like combo, and then you can do that combo, and it's your own custom trick. But the custom goals, my god, those were fucking fun to put together because you're really putting it together. It's easy to use. It's you choose which goal you want to start creating. I love doing the skate letters because I love collecting things. Obviously, a platformer guy, so But the funniest thing, again, without the censoring or anything from Neversoft, is you have to plop an NPC somewhere into like your own custom map or your own or one of the other pre-done, main story areas, and you plop a guy in there, and then you name the motherfucker. Then you type in what they're gonna say to you when you go up and talk to them, and then after you've actually completed the mission, and then you place the letters or whatever around. If you're doing like the score attack or whatever, you can set how many points you have to hit. The combo letters, you could make them butt fuckingly hard because combo you have to collect those letters without dropping your combo. Skate letters you can just go and find. You don't have to be doing tricks to find them or whatever. But you can put them in stupid hard to find spots or hard to get to spots. But it was always funny to just put weird shit in for those NPCs. You can call them like butt sniffer, and then their dialogue can be like, "Yo, jackass, get those letters, damn it," or whatever. You can just put whatever you want. It was the coolest shit. It was so like freeing. There was a liberty to it that I don't think they're ever gonna hit again. They're never gonna do it again. It sucks because that shit was fucking fun. It's essentially like making your own little Tony Hawk game right there because it's your custom character and a custom map made by you with NPCs that you named and put in the dialogue for, and then doing the missions that you created, collecting skate letters that you placed in there, reaching high scores that you set. That shit's so fucking cool. They're never going to top it again. None of that. Nothing of the sort in Pro Skater 5. I mean, you can collect the skate letters and the combo letters and stuff, but it's, it's whatever. It's by the numbers. Again, trying to be a return to form, and then it just didn't work out. And the franchise petered out for a while there after that. And even Tony, kind of split from Activision. And that game was made specifically, look around, and of course, if you don't already know, you'll see it. You'll learn that that game was also made specifically because their contract with Tony was Activision's contract with Tony was about to end, and so they quite literally went, we have to shoot out one more before it ends. And I found out Pro Skater 5 came out the final day that contract was put in, as it was right before it expired. It was the final day, which is why it's so rushed and why they had to put the fucking patch in same day. It's nuts. Pro Skater 5 is a masterclass in how to not handle a Tony Hawk game. So you can imagine my fucking utter bewilderment in the best way imaginable, and excitement for them announcing, "Hey, Tony's back with us. We're remaking from the ground up again, but real this time, true this time, Pro Skater 1 and 2 for modern platforms." And it's Vicarious Visions. And I was like, oh, fuck. This is the next thing after Insane for them. And it was the last thing they ever worked on because there was another merger. But I was like, shit. And I remember I was at work. It was 2020. Pandemic was happening. I'm in there with my fucking mask and whatever. And it was the end of the day. And I'm checking on shit because, that was back. There was that true heyday of looking up Crash stuff and Spyro stuff, figuring out news, talking to friends and content creator fans, friends and whatever. And then out of nowhere, it was like almost the same fucking day it seemed, it felt like, or something, where we found out Tony Hawk 1+2 was happening, but then SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated was also happening from THQ Nordic, and I was like, what?
Oh, right.
That happened very close to each other.
Yeah.
I was like,
forgot about
childhood. What the fuck? My childhood. What is happening? They're coming back. What the hell? This is awesome. And Vivi, I want to say they probably handled some of the, like, mobile versions of, like, Pro Skater and Underground and all that. I think. But this was them being like, all right, their turn to make a console Pro Skater game. It's remaking the first two, but like that's fucking cool, and it looked amazing. And the I did a reaction, I think, to the trailer and the announcement trailer, and I also did a video before it happened on Tony teasing shit, and then Lizzie Armanto being like, oh, accidentally dropping that a new game's coming, and so on Destination Mark, those videos are still up there. And my God, Pro Skater 1+2. I'm still a little miffed. This is really funny. It's small, it's insignificant. I think it's funny, but I'm also like, wow, that Miharu got a fucking code for the game, and I didn't. I'm like, huh? I know it's Activision, and we have our little, like, we have our guy that we talk to and shit, like our contact guy. And he helps us with like stuff like that because I got the pizza box for like Rumble. I got the that's how I got invited out to Activision for Rumble. I took Vic with me to the hotel in Santa Monica. It was awesome.
That was really good.
And stuff like that. So Miharu, was also in contact with that same guy, and he gave her a fucking code, a review copy of 1+2, but I didn't get one, and I'm like, what? Shouldn't even like sports games. I remember playing Pro Skater when I was like 5. What the fuck? But it's whatever. It was funny. Okay, so it's a double-edged sword, right? And we're talking about like modern stuff in games. So along with unlockable characters and whatever, you have assists and stuff like that, like for gamers who can't articulate shit like that, right? So what they did for 1+2 is instead of having cheat codes, these were assists. And there was some of the ones that I'm familiar with from like Pro Skater 4 and shit. Perfect manual, perfect balance, never bail, so you can just go and like completely just mash buttons when you're in the air off a ramp, and you come down and you don't have to like land like align yourself. You can just land in a scuffed way, but you won't fall off your board and you won't lose your points or your combo. So it was a cheat. That was a cheat a cheat code. You had to input a code for old school style from the old games. In 1+2, they're automatically in there in the options as an assist. It's a double-edged sword because it's not magical anymore. It feels more like it's a kind of a handout, but it's the same stuff as before. So it's still kind of cool. And it actually bizarrely led. We didn't do it very often at all because, again, it is a sports game, and Miharu doesn't really care for sports games too much. But she took advantage of having that code. I eventually pre-ordered the game, and we did play together for a while, and she decided, fuck it, might as well just make use of it. And so she played it, and when I told her about those assists and she found them or whatever, and she put them all on, and she found the game fun for just being able to fuck around and do tricks and not ever be able to like fall, because she's a very casual gamer. So she if she's going to play something like that and you don't have that in there and she can't keep her combos or can't keep the balance meter, she's going to be like, this sucks. But having all those in there, she was like, well, this is the fucking coolest thing because I'm just having fun and I'm never going to fall. And the funniest thing about that, which I remember us doing, which I want to do again, maybe even they should make this a mode somehow, is we played hide and seek. So we would go on different levels and we'd play online with each other because that was something that carried over. Pro Skater 5 didn't do it so well, but 1+2 did it way fucking better, having online lobbies. And you can get together with a bunch of friends and just skate around and do shit. And then if you're in a call, whether it's on PlayStation itself or through Discord, you could talk to each other and just skate and be in the same park. And again, Pro Skater 5 did it first, but 1+2 really got it down right, and it felt fun, and it was so fucking cool. So I had my perspective, she had hers, and we would give each other some time to run off. And now again, it's pro skater, so you can't get off your boards. We had to like hold the down button to kind of stay in place. But we'd find a spot and try and stay there, and then we'd just kind of do like a hot or cold situation or whatever, and we'd try to like figure it out, and we would like try to find each other. It was fun. It's little things like that. I'm glad that she got to have fun with the Tony Hawk game. It's super cool. She even did a stream of it when she first got the code. That's kind of it.
And pretty much,
to be honest. 1+2 was so cool, and the thing that sucks. So now it's time to get into like the kind of end game stuff here, where it seemed like okay. So I guess we didn't really know what the charted course was for Crash or Spyro throughout that time. But with 1+2 and with Vicarious Visions doing, 1+2 right after Insane. The cool thing too about all of that was that Vivi was even allowed to we got Crash stuff in a Tony Hawk game, and that's where I was like, what the fuck is happening with my childhood stuff colliding with each other? This is amazing. So Crash did not get into Pro Skater 5, thank God, but elements of stuff did get into 1+2. Vivi were allowed to use Beanox's assets of the Rustland graffiti from Nitro Field, and it's sprinkled around the graffiti in certain levels in 1+2. And then later when Crash 4 was coming out, to promote that, Tony Hawk 1+2 had in-game shirts and merch, little hats and stuff you could put on your characters and whatever. So that was super, super cool. Decks and stuff and what have you. It was all Crash 4 themed. It was super dope. But then, after all that, we were like, okay, we heard Bam's brother, Bam Margera's brother, I forget his name, but he was part of the band CKY, I believe is what they're called. And that band actually did music that ended up in Pro Skater 3 and 4 and whatever. Yeah. He comes in and says their music's going to be... And see, yeah, it was 3 or 4 because they said... I should put this together beforehand. The more I think about it, he was like, yeah, we're coming back for this new game or whatever. He goes, the new one. And I'm like, Lizzie did this right before 1+2, and 1+2 is out now. So what's this new one, Bam's brother from the band CKY? It happened again, and I made a video on Destination Mark about it, and I'm like, we're probably getting a new Tony Hawk game, guys. After 1+2, I think the franchise is here to stay. God damn it, Activision.
And Activision was like, merge.
Merge!
They clicked the merge button.
They did.
And they said, fuck your childhood. We're going to merge these. We're going to merge them.
Oh, it really fucking sucks what happened to Vivi. They got merged in the same way. History repeats itself in the most eerie of ways. Neversoft got merged into Infinity Ward. Vivi got merged into Blizzard. So they're no longer Vicarious Visions. They are Blizzard Albany. I fucking hate it. It's soulless sounding. Jesus Christ, it's so sad. You know what's funny? There's a video that Neversoft put out when they learned that Neversoft, as for their little branch and everything as they was over. They took this big cardboard cutout of their eye logo and they set that shit on fire as a kind of salute to the good old days ending.
Jeez.
Give them a Viking funeral, if you will. And they filmed it. Shit's Neversoft are fucking goats, dude. They're crazy. But it really sucks what happened with Vivi because it was very unexpected. And then this is where it just becomes so fucking weird. And this is where I'm like, okay, what? So, what ended up happening after the merge? What a product of the merge, a result of the merge, so Bam's brother and all that, so it was revealed they were working on a 3+4 remake. So we were going to have 1+2 and then 3+4. And that was the next game. Shit got immediately canned, and I have no idea how far they got into it, into production of it, by the time they learned about the merge and then had to do the merge. So, but that project got officially axed by Activision. Activision then goes on to go, okay, so Vivi, you made 1+2 and you're fucking awesome, but you're over there now with Blizzard. All right, what do we do with Tony Hawk now? Let's line up a bunch of devs, have them pitch shit to us, and then figure out what we want to do. We don't like any of your pitches. It doesn't. We don't have the same trust with you as we did with Vivi, to make some really banging ass product for Tony Hawk. We gotta find somebody that's just like Vivi. And it's like you fucking. You had them. You had Vivi.
See,
right fucking there.
You literally asked the people that were making the thing
that you
want to do.
Just like I don't business, man. I don't fucking get it. Bro, you asked Vivi, who were making a Tony Hawk game for you, after the other one that did really fucking well. It was so well made, so well put together. Everything about it just, again, the fucking feel was back. Not all of it was the same, especially because Tony Hawk is something very, very different from something like Crash or Spyro when you do a ground-up remake where, like, there's licensing, there's brands, like Vans and, like, other shit there. There's brands, the music and everything, too. So all this copyrighted shit, too, that you have to take into consideration. But damn it, they did what they could, and they did, really, really well with what they had, and they brought a lot of that shit back. Not everything, but almost all of it back. That those core bits of what made them, they fucking they turned the hangar into a fucking Neversoft shrine. The redone hangar in 1+2 features posters of all the Neversoft era Tony Hawk games and the logo of their company. And I was like, oh my god, that's so fucking cool. You have Vivi, and then you merge them, and then you go, man, I wish we had a company like Vivi. What the fuck? That leads us to where we are now, where I don't know what the fuck is happening with Tony Hawk as a brand.
I don't know what the fuck's happening with Activision, because I'm really curious as to
I don't think anyone ever knows what's happening with Activision.
I'm really curious who's running the circus show that is Activision.
It's not Kotick, I'll tell you that much. He was out like a year or two ago.
Yes, yeah. But like, it's just so interesting how things like that just happen, because it's just like
business. It's business.
Yeah.
Nothing personnel, kid. I fucking hate it. I hate it here. This is the worst timeline. Oh my god, though. So that leads us into the news. And we talked about it at the beginning of the podcast and sprinkled, bits throughout. But, like, Tony is back. It's the same fucking song and dance. It's like the Pied Piper. Tony is back saying, hey, he was on this, what was it? The Last Meal thing, that YouTube show. He was like, hey, so I'm talking with Activision right now because the franchise is turning fucking 25 years old. 25 years old. So he alludes to the fact that there's going to be a future for the franchise. What that entails and with who, developer-wise, I don't know. We don't know. That's where we're at right now. 1+2 happened with Vivi. It was fucking awesome. 3+4 was supposed to happen. Got axed. Vivi merged into Blizzard. That left the fate of, THPS ambiguous. And so we don't know now what's going on with that. I remember even before 1+2, I'm like, well, what can you do after Pro Skater 5? That travesty. Either you do a Pro Skater 6, but do it right, with the right people. You either do like an Underground 3 or something, where you could do, these are my 4 proposed projects I can foresee the franchise going down even today. Because this is what I thought of for before 1+2, but even after the cancellation of 3+4, I still think this can happen. They can either do a Pro Skater 6, but with the right people. Someone who gets that, again, fluidity of the gameplay of Pro Skater and can really nail the feel. So Pro Skater 6, Underground 3, just because Underground is so fucking good that, people would probably love to see a new entry just called Underground. With those mechanics and the big stuff like the plot and these crazy characters and the pros being there. The new pros, of course. Like Riley's all grown up now, so he was a secret character when he was a kid in Pro Skater 3. And then now he's an official pro you could just play as in like 1+2 and I think even 5. But that's actually pretty fucking cool. Like he gets his own little fucking character development arc. Dude looks like Jesus. Tony Hawk's son is a handsome fucking man. His hair is like all the way done with fucking like beyond his shoulders. He has like this cool like fucking mustache, like little goatee thing going on. Like what the fuck? What a glow up. But yeah. So Underground 3, perhaps with like getting on and off your board again and stuff like that, and these big areas and what have you. They could do another game following Neversoft's work, like after Proving Ground, because you see like American Wasteland, Project 8, Proving Ground, even Underground, they stopped calling it Pro Skater. So you can call it some other subtitled name, and it maybe continues whatever story might have left off from Proving Ground. Again, never played it, have no idea how the story mode goes. All I know is it's something of like Underground 1, where it's like, oh, it's you as like, a kid from the streets, and you have to make it big. That's all I know about Proving Ground. Other than that, no fucking idea. Oh, and fucking Eric Sparrow's in it. I just learned like fucking last night. I was like, what? You brought that motherfucker back? Again. So there's that. That's all I know. So like, if there is something there that can be continued off of Proving Ground, and you do like some other subtitled game, like entry, you could do that. So Pro Skater 6, Underground 3, some new subtitled entry, or I guess attempt to either bring back the 3+4 project, or even maybe remaster Underground 1 and 2, call it Underground 1+2 or something. I don't know. Those are the 4 things I can see happening.
Yeah, I could see it too. I feel like those would be some of the more realistic choices that I would also agree with what they could do, because I'm not sure what else they could try with the franchise at this point.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of experimenting they can do, but as we've seen before, experimenting ain't really the, I think, best way to go about it right now. Yeah. Whether it's Robomoto or whoever, I mean, even if like Toys for Bob again, or someone else try to do some crazy Tony Hawk spin-offy thing, like it's just not the right move. Because even Downhill Jam came at a time where there were still plenty of Tony Hawk games, but they were starting to peter out. They were starting to like kind of run out of ideas, like I was saying before. Like they were just trying to do shit to see what could stick, because the brand already had its audience now. So once you've captured and captivated that audience, what can you do now? Kind of whatever the fuck you want. So that's kind of what they did, was whatever the fuck they wanted. They made a racing game. They did a thing with your fucking, you had an actual skateboard controller. They just did all kinds of shit. None of it really worked to the best of what they wanted it to be, but I mean,
Yeah, they tried.
Damn it, they tried. So like right now, again, in the space we've got now, because now you've got shit like Skate and whatever else. I mean, back in the day, you had like 3 Extreme. You had like fucking Grind Session, which Grind Session was like the closest thing to a Tony Hawk adjacent, I don't want to call it a clone, but like, skating game that you could have that was as good as Tony Hawk Pro Skater. For me, was Grind Session. Everyone and their fucking father will speak to Skate, but I've never played that shit, and it doesn't look appealing to me. It looks too slow, and it doesn't have I don't know if it's trying to capture the skating aspect and like seeing from a different perspective, in the sense of you're just a dude go skate, and that's just where it stops. I really don't know. But Skate never captivated me. It always looked boring and slow. But everyone swears by it that it's one of the best series after Tony Hawk. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. But no, if I'm going to play a skateboarding game again, god damn it, it's going to be a Tony Hawk game. And I can't wait to see what they do next, because Tony just promised we're going to see more of Pro Skater in the future. And I'm really, really interested, but also cautiously optimistic to see what they do with it. Because I don't know what you can do with it. My thing is, who's going to make it? That was the whole fucking problem from the get-go after 1+2. You killed off your dude, and then said, I wish we had that dude. You killed him! You merged him! What do you mean you wish you had a fucking dev like Vivi? You just had Vivi!
It's like,
None of the people that fucking pitched you a thing you didn't like! You didn't like any of those pitches!
It reminds me of? It reminds me of, when the studio, what were they called? The ones that made It Takes Two, or is it?
It Takes Two is Hazelight.
Or was it the people who made Hi-Fi? I think it was the people who made Hi-Fi.
That's Tango something or other.
Yeah, Tango Works, I think is what their name was. It reminds me of when because who was it that like decided to cut the studio?
Oh, I don't fucking remember.
Forgot, but it was essentially something like that, where Hi-Fi was so popular.
No, I
and
remember
so
what you're.
good,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
and then out of just nowhere, they were like,
we're looking for games and developers that are kind of like what they did with Hi-Fi. And it's like, well, yeah,
and it's like, well,
you
yeah,
fucking
you
had
just,
it.
yeah, it's like, hello, they were there. They literally just made this thing for you.
Xbox, hello. Jesus, it sucks, dude. It's kind of a tragedy, but somehow, in the same way that Crash and Spyro before them, like I feel like the Tony Hawk franchise can come out of it, and whether or not they're gonna thrive again like Crash, I don't know. And by thriving like Crash, of course, I know that at this time we just kind of Rumble's been the last thing, and we don't know what's gonna happen with all that. But the point being that after Insane, Crash had this really good streak for a while, even if the development was still sketchy as ever, even from like the post hiatus shit. With Tony Hawk, I mean, stuff is still a little sketchier in there because we're dealing with Activision. But beyond that, I mean, I still have faith that we're gonna get something pretty fucking big and hopefully really crazy.
That's what I hope so. That's really all I want.
If it's the 25th anniversary, and Tony's coming back being like, okay, well, it's under my supervision again, and it's never gonna not be under my supervision and stuff like that, then I'm hoping he's learned, and I'm sure he has at this point. This is not the first time he's been burned. To put into perspective, he was still at the forefront of the marketing and the saying that this is going to be, a great title for Pro Skater 5. And then later voiced like his concern of that, yeah, no, it didn't turn out the way we wanted. And then was kind of done after that. And even prior to that, so like he lambasted 5 and didn't even touch like Riot or Shred. And those games were awful. But it was his idea. That might be why he didn't. But he was very quick to be like, oh, 5 was not that. We could have done better. they could have done better with that. So with leaving and coming back and being in talks and this and that, like I'm sure that Tony has to be like, okay, stop dicking around. This is what we're doing. Because, I mean, he even said at the beginning of like that trailer for Pro Skater 5, that where they interviewed some of the boarders, the skaters, he's like, I don't have to school them on how skateboarding is done. They pretty much know their vibe and they know what to do already. Again, yeah, Activision probably knows what to do and how to go about with these devs, but the devs themselves, that's where, again, it's the developers. That's the part where I am cautious about and interested, but very, like, concerned for, is, like, not just with the whole VV, you had them and everything, but, like, Neversoft were the ones, for those, again, 6 to 7 games, that was peak. They had a vision, they knew what they were doing, and they only innovated and built with each one. Now that we're in this weird limbo state again where we have to rebuild from the ground up, quite literally, we had 1+2, we're going to go from there. And with who? Who can understand the logic, the technical coding, programming know-how on the developmental side? Because the creative side, like, again, even Pro Skater 5 got some of that right. The creative side wasn't really the problem. I mean, it was for 5, but again, the fundamentals were there. The game was still able to be played for a while. It was everything else that kind of sucked. But with 1+2, VV actually proved to be up there with Neversoft as ones to be like, okay, we know what we're doing, we can do it. But now they're not around, so who can fill that gap? That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, that's pretty much it for Tony Hawk. Is there anything else you want to mention? Did we forget anything?
I don't think so. I mean,
watching the Bales videos were the funniest shit.
Oh, I loved watching those videos.
The Pro Skater Bales. Oh my god.
Like, you feel bad
the bloopers and outtakes behind the scenes.
You feel bad for, like, laughing at the fact that you see them fall, but at the same time, it's kind of funny because, like, you just...
Some of the falls are funny, but then you look at them and it's like, oh god.
Yeah, some of it's like, it makes you go, like, it makes you reflex. You wince.
Yeah, wince your cringe. That's gotta fucking hurt.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Again, and again, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater captures that very well. That's what it is. It's learning. Because that's what skateboarding is. It's learning. It's taking those hits and then continuing on. And starting small and then like I said, now back in the day it was different, it's mighty impressive I think nowadays if you're young and then you get sponsored or get noticed by pros. Or hell, maybe I've not really heard from the space very much these days, and maybe it's more common than I thought. But like back in the day, it was not really the case. But yet some people managed to be at the right place at the right time and know how to do the right things in the right moments. And Tony was one of them because he fucking like what got sponsored at 17 or 19 or something. And it was Stacy Peralta that we were watching Underground, and you were like, "This dude's weird." The yoga man.
Oh, yeah.
Stacy Peralta, he's a real guy, and he is, one of those legends. And I think Tony was sponsored by him. So, or at the very least, they were friends. I can't remember how Tony's lore goes, but
the Hawk lore.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, man.
Yeah,
Pro Skater was fucking solid.
I was say, like, definitely people would recommend the first game to Underground 2 / American Wasteland, depending on who you ask. But those ones were like really fun. Especially for me, just more so the later ones, because those ones, I think because of the scope and just how much freedom you had to do whatever, was really fun. So like I feel that's where I feel like I got a bit more attached to the series.
And the cheesiness, the 2000s of it is just the soundtrack choice.
Very much of its era, but
yes,
like, it's really fun though.
Oh my god, there's so many. We were just talking about it right as we were coming in to record. The shit they got away with.
Oh,
the jokes and the language they got away with. Oh, you can't do that shit nowadays.
Nope.
Ethnical stereotypes, the R word. You can't say that shit now. I say it sometimes still, but I mean, don't tell anybody.
But I mean,
no, seriously,
they're very much like
it's
the
of
games,
its time.
Yeah, the games are very much a product of their time, but they're still fun to play. Like regardless of all that, it's still like a fun game when you really like look at it from that perspective.
It was just the culture at the time. Again, skate culture is so very. It inspired a lot of different shit, and I would even argue things and franchises you probably wouldn't even think at first glance. Like it probably even influenced like Splatoon even, because Splatoon definitely, was inspired by skate culture and by like the hip hop scene, because that's why there's so many, there's so much of that in Splatoon, and it's the first thing I've seen really roll with it. A lot of games have that now. Zenless has it. Movies and even like anime and other like shows like Soul Eater has that vibe. To a degree, it has a very Western vibe, and our Western scene at the time was just that. It was skate culture. It was I don't give a fuck the police, stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of, it was that like, I wouldn't say anarchy, but it's more of that like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the culture of like going against the man, going against the rules. It's not anarchy. I swear to God, that's not the word I'm looking for.
Breaking the rules.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like anti-authority, I guess you could say, kind of culture. But skate culture was very much cemented in just like, let us grow, let us like learn, and just do what we do, like and Tony Hawk really managed to capture that in the middle era of games, because Underground's like the masterclass in like. In that, I wouldn't say totally super accurately representing it, but it's the kind of come up story of going from amateur to pro and whatever, and that was like the coolest thing about it. We've rambled on for long enough. I think that's kind of it. I'm boiling in this room. It's fall. We're boiling. That's not right. Any last minute things? I'm trying to think of anything else I could have potentially. Again, we got into skating because of it. It was
you more so than I did.
Sure, but again, and that's not even saying my friend, the aforementioned friend.
Yeah. But it was enough for at least me to try to give it a try, like how I like regardless.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, Tony Hawk also influenced a lot of like I think even my art style and stuff at the time, because I used to draw a lot of shit like that. I would draw like the Neversoft die and other stuff, and that like really thrashy looking like kind of hardened like sketch style I mean, even American Wasteland has that as part of its on some Crash Twin Sanity shit. It has like, the main 3D look of everything, but then it's got like that 2D art style to it, like that backing art style to it, which I thought was just the most bizarre choice, but it was so cool. It helps it stand out. And again, American Wasteland, it on my monitor I have like the destination mark like background. I'm not narcissistic, I swear to fucking God. But I just love my blue background. I love the color blue. But that is actually like our city where we're from in the background, right? And that was inspired, that choice, and having like the ray for the sky in the background, like that, all of that. My channel aesthetic for Destination Mark was partly inspired by American Wasteland. So that's how you know like it's really had an impact in terms of like my artistic influence. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, here's to 25 years of the franchise, and here's to hoping that we get to hear something soon, and it comes out looking fucking awesome.
Yeah, here's hoping that whatever comes out is good.
Pretty much. That's all we can hope for these days. Is it good though?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So short one ish. I mean, we almost hit 2 hours, not quite. Till next time. And maybe we'll do another follow-up if it's epic, if it's like insane, some Tony Hawk announcement. Maybe we'll do a follow-up podcast. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
That's it. How do we end this? Cool.
Awesome.
Rage Against the Machine. Motorhead.
Grade A.
AC/DC. Song. We're going through to the other side.